Let's quickly listen in to Vice President Harris's interview with Oprah Winfrey, which is happening right now.
Called and then said, let's open the door. Yeah. Let's open the door and invite everybody else in, and everybody actually came.
Organically. Yes. Organically. Like, this is the beauty of our country. There's so much at stake in this election. And ultimately, the question before us is, what kind of country do we want to live in? And the beauty of a democracy, as long as we can hold on to it, the beauty of a democracy is each of us has the power. Each of us has the power.
That's right.
To answer that question.
That's right. Everybody on this call and beyond has the power. But can I just start with this?
Yes, please.
I have to say this because in all of my private conversations, Gail, and I've said this 100 times, and everybody is saying it, you all have said it, I know you have. It seems to us that something happened to you the moment President Biden, stepped aside and withdrew his candidacy, that a veil or something dropped and you just stepped into your power? I mean, literally, looking at you at a speech like the week before, which was a great speech, very nice. And then the next week, I saw you walking in the thing. And I said, what happened to you?
You know, we each have those moments in our lives where it's time to step up.
Time to step up.
Time to step up, you know?
Well, the moment you heard, I mean, I really have been saying to people, it felt like a veil dropped and you sort of stepped through that veil. Did you feel like that?
I felt a sense of responsibility, to be honest with you. And with that comes a sense of purpose. But I mean, we're all here and you all are taking time out of your busy lives, everyone here, everyone on the screen, because there really is so much at stake. I have spent the majority of my career being concerned about the well-being of other people.
Yeah.
As I've said, in my career as a prosecutor, I never looked at a victim or a witness and asked them, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them is, are you okay?
Are you okay? I know when I heard that.
You know?
Touch me.
And traveling this country and knowing what is at stake in terms of fundamental freedoms, what's at stake in terms of fighting against hate and those efforts to divide us. And I do know that I am in a position to do something about it. So I felt a great responsibility. And the incredible power of the people, right? Who, I'm not the only leader in this. We're all leaders in this. This is so much bigger than me. It's about who we are as Americans. And it's about making clear what we stand for. And what we stand for is about the ideals upon which we were founded, including the importance of freedom and the importance of independence and the importance of dignity and purpose. But it is also about what we stand for in terms of our values. I think of it this way.
I think a lot boils down to values. I just said values are on the line here.
Yes. It does. I mean, think about it, Oprah. The idea that some would suggest, and that my opponent suggests, which is that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down. Come on. The real measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. And it's important for us to articulate that.
You know, ever since the debate, we feel for our fellow citizens in Springfield. Do you not think about the fellow citizens in Springfield, Ohio, the Haitian families, the non-Haitian families, everybody having to deal with this lie that has endangered the lives of Haitian people and anybody who looks Haitian? Everybody in America feels for that. And everybody in America, left, right, middle, has concerns about immigration. And I'm told that Justin, where are you in the audience? Justin.
Hello.
In our audience.
Hello, Madam Vice President.
Hi, Justin.
You live in Michigan.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you love saying hello, Madam Vice President?
I do.
What's your question? It's an immigration question.
My question for you is, when you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be your specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected Attorney General for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. Let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here, so I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country, and the need to take seriously stemming the flow coming into our country and addressing that extraordinary and tragic issue in terms of its effect. The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. And it would have been part of the solution. And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Watching this now, I mean, Jamal, you know her very well, former communications director for Harris. An event like this, you know, is how important is this, you think, for her?
Oh, it's very important. She started doing these moderated conversations about a year or so after she was in the White House, beginning of 2022, middle of 2022. Started doing this. She did one with Keke Palmer at the Essence Festival, some other ones, and she's been continuing to do them for the last couple of years. And what happens is she gets in the rhythm of being able to have a conversation where you've lowered the pressure on some of these big speeches, but sometimes, frankly, don't always go as well as you might want. You lower the pressure on like a big interview, but you have a conversation where you can see her personality come through, and people respond really well to that. I think she's very comfortable in the space, and I think you'll see tonight that people will continue to think she's doing a good job.
Well, just listening to her here, she's continuing to thread the needle here on this immigration issue, talking about immigrants in a compassionate manner, but also needling the former president for squashing that bipartisan border enforcement bill. So she has that issue, I would say, down pat, and it'll be interesting to see how voters respond to that, if that's a sufficient answer for voters. But I think what was also important about this event tonight is they partnered with Win with Black Women. They, of course, are an organizing force in this country. They had that Zoom call several weeks ago when it was announced that the vice president would be the candidate. More than 90,000 women tuned into that call. They raised $1.5 million in just about 3 hours. And Black women are just going to play such an important role in this election. So many Democratic women have often said that they don't feel as though that they are invested in when it comes to them being candidates. Well, now the top of the ticket is a Black woman. And so for them to be a partner in this event tonight, I think is a really important strategic choice.
Philip?
The thing that struck me is when we went to that exchange, the first conversation was about the effect that individual people can have. And we were just talking about all these polls in Pennsylvania that show that it's close. And I think one of the questions when Harris became the nominee is, was she going to be able to close the gap that had grown between Trump and Biden? We saw that, yes, she was. And then the next question was she going to be able to extend that gap? And we haven't seen that has happened. We haven't seen that she's taken a 5-6 point national leader in these state polls, as Harry pointed out. And so that means that with 7 weeks left, the key is getting people to vote. And so when she makes those comments to that group of people there in that room saying, hey, it's up to you, the obvious point here is we need you to go vote. And that's what it is. This is a turnout race. It's a turnout race because these polls are close. It's going to come down to who actually is coming out and casting a ballot over the course of the next early voting period and then on Election Day. And that's what that event is focused on. It's focused on making sure that they know you have to vote. This is incumbent upon you, more than me at this point.
You know, Harry, this is Harry's line of business here around the polls. But, you know, it's interesting. Phil just said something. People keep expecting her to expand her lead in a way that I think just might not hold up in our modern context. That would mean Donald Trump would have to lose support. And he's really been like a 47, 48% candidate. And I don't know that we're ever going to see him drop down to 45%.
I tend to doubt it. Look, we've had national elections in this country that have been decided by single digits since 1988. It's the longest such stretch since we've had the popular vote being counted in the 1800s. But, you know, just talking about Kamala Harris's strengths as a candidate, right? You go back 2 months ago when she became the presumptive Democratic nominee, her net favorability ratings were something like -14, -15 points. She has climbed all the way back. And now if you take an average of polls, her net favorability rating is actually positive. It's because of events like tonight. The only other thing I'll mention, you know, Eva was mentioning black women. One of the more interesting sort of nuggets that we've seen in the crosstabs, we've seen it in Pennsylvania, is Kamala Harris has certainly improved upon her standing with black voters overall versus what Joe Biden was doing earlier on in this year, but she is still falling short of Biden's benchmark in 2020. I think one of the big questions going forward is, can she actually reach that benchmark that Biden set in 2020? Because if she does, she'll likely win this election.